Okay guys, so we're gonna give you an update. Here we go. We're still up on blocks, right? All right, so we're doing the motor mounts and using the Whipple instructions, okay? There's a few things let's go over about the Whipple instructions that they don't tell you, okay? It's gonna make this so much simpler if you're gonna do this yourself. Now, guys, I just got this thing on wheel cribs. Super easy to do. All right, so per the Whipple instructions here, and this is just for the motor mounts. Let's go down there. Okay, first and foremost, you're just removing the two 15 millimeter bolts on the motor mounts. All right, you do that from the top, long socket, easy peasy, not a problem. All right, telling you to put it on jack stands. Okay, so now we move over here to the passenger side mount, okay? There's gonna be a total of 4 bolts. These are easy to do, okay? This one's got a nut on it, which, you know, I'll show you guys here. It's like that one's gonna have a nut on it, that's gonna have a nut on it. You're gonna get that bracket out of your way, and there's gonna be a ground strap right there, okay? So there's gonna be a ground strap right there that you're gonna take off. All right, this one is actually the hardest bolt to get out, and if you go through the firewall, get a little light on there, you can get that through the firewall. That's pretty simple, okay? Now, in order to fish the bracket out of there, what they're not showing you is right there, now you see the bracket, is it's easier just to move the whole, take the whole motor mount out, okay? So you got 2 bolts that are holding the mount, of course a stud going up, all right? It's easier just, when you're jacking this thing up, is just to take this motor mount out, and again, super simple, just go from the top, take the 2 bolts out, and when you get, it just gives you more room to work with, and you can fish this bracket out, or the motor mount out. Okay, so now we've got the BMR bracket, okay? Now, what this isn't telling you is that, first and foremost, this bolt right here, okay, which on the screen, I hope you guys, there's gonna be a bolt right there, okay? That's that 4th bolt. I have struggled with trying to get that, sorry, trying to get the glare off screen, to try to get that bolt in, and here's basically what I ended up doing. I ended up, because I was going to do that one last, because I knew that was going to be a pain, right? And despite my best efforts, I could not get that thing to get started, right? So ended up taking the 3 bolts out, okay, using a shallow 15 millimeter and a short extension. All right, I fished the bracket back up in there and started that bolt first. And because I could tilt the bracket a little bit and kind of, you know, manipulate it a little bit, gave me just enough room to where it got started. All right, I mean, literally second try. And that made it so much simpler, okay? So when you're putting on this passenger side bracket, all right, first and foremost, take out the motor mount. It's going to give you more room to fish this thing out of there. Even jacking this thing up all the way, I was still having problems trying to get the motor mount out. So when the bracket out, and when I took the motor mount out, it was simpler. And of course, getting this one back in was so much simpler. So 100% do that. Start that top bolt first. And then the other thing they're not telling you, guys, is that this bracket is flat. All right, whereas the motor mount that comes off of it, you know, has this long stud here, and the reason is because there's only a portion of it actually sticking out from the motor mount, okay? But when you go to the BMR bracket, I mean, it's you know, it's that thick, you don't have all that, okay? So if you try to run that bolt back in there, you're gonna have all that extra space, okay? So if you went to the BMR's website and we were looking at their instructions, just like on a GT Mustang, because they didn't have one specific for the GT500, okay? They're going to show you right here that there's your ground, okay, and that the ground's got little tabs on it, and if you don't want to cut those tabs off or try to bend them flat, which is nearly impossible up under there, because there's hardly no room. I mean, there's no play in that cable. It isn't like you got a bunch of room in there. And the only other option is, of course, to cut the bolt. All right, but your Whipple instructions don't tell you that. All right, I mean, obviously, after you go to try to put it back in there, I mean, you start thinking. I mean, you know, common sense catches in. Okay, so then we just cut the bolt. Okay. So cut in the bolt. Just use the whiz wheel, cut it off. Put a bolt on there prior to cutting it off. That way when I go to run this thing off, if I put a, sorry guys, my motion light cut down. I gotta fix that. What a pain this is. Okay, so when I'm doing the bolt here, running the bolt on there, that way I can run it back off. I've also got a deburr tool to hit the end of this with, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't use it. All I did is just kind of ran it around the grinder, but it worked fine. I've already ran this into the block the whole bit, but just know that you're gonna have to cut it off, and you're just gonna have to use the other bolt to measure it. So you're just gonna take you know, your 2 bolts, right, and mark it, you know, and then cut it off. Like I said, just run the bolt down on top of it. So now when you run this into the bracket, okay, then you're gonna have the stud out there, so you can put the transmission lines. I think, yeah, transmission line bracket is going to go back on there, and then on the other one you're going to have your ground wire. You're not having to modify that, all right, but you are going to end up cutting these 2 bolts, so just know that. Well, it's either that or you're going to be doing that with the ground, and trust me, this was going to be a whole lot easier than trying to figure out how I was going to either grind or cut that off, and yeah, so I did not do that. But that did not come with the Whipple instructions, okay? That was just something I found on the BMR website. So hopefully that makes it easier for the guy coming up behind me, right? So start that bolt first. Know you're gonna cut the 2 bolts off. Super simple, not a big deal. And believe it or not, on the driver's side, I have already taken out what I would consider the 2 hardest bolts to take out. Same thing, went through the fender and took, went through the fender well, and was able to reach those easy. I mean, even doing it with the tire on there, so it's not like I'm taking the tire off to do that. So that'll be easy. These will be easy to take off. Of course, in this picture, it has the steering knuckle taken off, and I'm going to let you guys know here in a minute whether or not we have to take the steering knuckle off, or if I'm going to be able to fish this the motor mount out and put the new bracket in without having to do all that. I might end up seeing if I have to take the other motor mount out, but hey, there again, I'm gonna tell you whatever shortcut I find. But so far, that's about it, man. Hopefully that 1 bolt deal, man. I wish there were a video on it, because that probably would have saved me 2 days of messing around with this thing after work, trying to get that 1 stupid bolt in there. So, all right, guys, that's where we're at. We're going to jump on the driver's side here in a minute and see what we come up with. All right, so I thought I'd jump under here real quick just to kind of give you guys a perspective of what I'm talking about. So as we get our hand in here, as you see, this is your ground wire. There's no play in that cable. Okay, so I mean, literally, when I say you got no room up under here to be messing with this thing, I mean, I mean it. So taking those tabs and cutting those tabs off, I could see it being a real pain, and that actually being tougher than just doing what I'm talking about doing, just cutting the bolt. As you can see, the bolt way up in there, super easy once I figured out how to get it in there. Okay, and then on this side, you notice that I've got the motor mount out. The bracket is still loose. Okay, so popping the other motor mount back in there is going to be easy. And like I said, it just gave me more room with getting this bracket in and out because and even the motor mount, like this, still had to get it all twisted just right to get it to pop out of here, but I could not get it to budge with the motor mount still in here. And that'll be simple enough to get back in. Obviously we got it sitting right here, around right there. So we're gonna pop that in here in a minute before I jump over here to the driver's side. And like I said, I'll give you guys an update here in a few and see what we find out over here on the driver's side. All right, guys, the hits keep coming. So now we're on the driver's side. And just a heads up, we did not have to take out the motor mount or anything. Let's get that tilted in so you can get all the glare. We didn't have to take out the motor mount. We didn't have to disconnect the steering column. Took out the 4 bolts. Easy peasy, dropped right out of there, not a problem. Got the new bracket in there. And okay, so the bottom 3 bolts, let's just say. All right, so if you're looking up under the car, there's your steering knuckle. These 3 bolts, super simple to get in. Obviously that 3rd one up in the corner right there is tougher to get in. Okay, the way that I found that worked best for me was I have the air cleaner out of there and was able to. I know you guys can't see, but just know that you can reach into here and get that bolt started, and that's really the easiest way to do it. To reach it is just not having the air cleaner box in there and just reach up under there and get it done. Okay, so that wasn't a problem. So I go to put the bracket in there, guys, and lo and behold, guess what? It don't work. It don't fit. Okay, so here we are. This is the top of the bracket, and you can see just right there from where I have in this picture that it's hitting the casting of the side of the engine and has got the bolt hole all screwed up. Okay, it might also be hitting the casting right there along the lip, because that is a little bit raised from the rest of it. Okay, not a lot, but enough that it would keep it from sitting flat. Okay, and then of course you can see how this is raised up as well. That has really been the problem. So really what we need to do is we just need to take and grind that down a little bit. All right, get our extra clearance. Don't need a ton, right? Just a little bit. But I wasn't going to do anything without reaching out. I sent a message to Palm Beach Style. I'll just, and just ask them if they had to modify any of theirs. They're saying they had not, based on the email that I got. And I also reached out to BMR about the bracket, and they were saying that they don't know of anybody having to modify the bracket. Well, okay. So yeah, maybe I've got the rare bird, right? I've got the odd 2020. But anyway, here's what I'm gonna do. I just put me a piece of tape down here for reference, just so I'm grinding it. I know what the hell I'm doing and what I'm looking at. I'm not gonna take that much off of it, although I don't know. Maybe I do take that much off of it. But anyway, I'm gonna go downstairs because I don't have a vise up here in the garage. I'm gonna use a vise in the basement. We'll grind that down and get it to where it lines up. So part 2 of that story is when I started threading the bolt into the top part. It felt like it went in there. Everything seemed fine. Started to tighten up on the bolt, and I was like, something don't feel right. All right, that's what got me started with looking. All right, because it is in such an area that you can't see whether or not the bolt hole is lined up or not. Okay. Those pictures was me, digging my phone down in there to try to get a better view of what was going on. All right, and that's when I realized, okay, the bolt hole is a little off. Well, with the bolt hole being off a little bit, it also threw that nut off a little bit, okay, and it got the threads all wonky. So now I've probably spent the last, I don't know, hour and a half just running a tap into that hole, and guys, there's no room in that thing, man. I mean, it's what a pain in the butt that's been. But ran it all the way in because I just knew that what's going to happen is I'm going to grind all this down. I'm going to get ready. I'm going to try to thread it in there, and it's not going to work. And so hey, it was just worth just making sure that the threads were right. So, man. I will tell you this, that if we didn't have any clearance issues with the bracket, changing this driver's side is maybe a 15-minute job. Like it will go that quickly for you. It's super simple. The passenger side, same thing. Just remember, you want to start with that top right-hand bolt before you put the other ones in. It's just going to make it so much simpler, and it'll go together really quickly. So those couple of things, knowing that, and then knowing that you need to take out the motor mount on the passenger side, I'm telling you, there again, it just makes it so much simpler, because the motor mount on the passenger side is so more difficult to maneuver out. Driver's side was easy. So that's where we're at. I'm gonna go downstairs. We're gonna grind this off some more. I tell you what, I'll probably do is once I get the other bolts started. I'm definitely going to before I put the other bolt in there again. We'll snap another picture just so we can kind of see the clearance on that side, and hopefully moving forward, nobody has the same issue. But if you're putting the bracket in, before putting that bolt in, you know, hey guys, maybe you want to check the alignment of that hole, because it certainly was not right on mine. So, you know, that being said, maybe take an extra peek, save you some time. And there again, you know, this is the kind of stuff, just so you know, I mean, that you run into, all right? And if you're getting a shop to do it, you never hear about it, right? Because, I mean, this is the crap that they go through, and you never hear about it, because when you come pick it up, it's all ready to go. But, you know, part of the fun, I guess, is sometimes the aggravation and just figuring it out. So, we're gonna trim that off a little bit. There's a ton of material on there. Taking a little bit of this material isn't gonna change anything on this bracket. I think I've got some Rust-Oleum or something down there, so we're just gonna paint over whatever raw metal we get back over it. And yeah, we're gonna get this thing on there so we can move on to move on to better things. All right, so here we go. That's where we're at. Okay, so just for reference, you can kind of see how much material I took off. Not a ton. Sprayed it with a little bit of Rust-Oleum paint, and we're gonna pop it on there real quick and make sure that we took off enough, and we're good to go. All right, guys, ding dong, the witch is dead. So we've got to put back together. We cut down both of the bolts, put the bracket back on there, got a ground wire back on there. The only thing I haven't done as of yet is put our spacer on the motor mount stud, and then put our 2 bolts back on there and torque that back down. I haven't done that yet. I'm gonna move on, do something else. I know it's mighty dark, guys. I didn't have a light over there. In the bubble wrap, we've got some race exhaust. And what I've done is we've taken out the battery and battery tray, and then there's a shield right here that I took off. And the reason is if you can kind of see down there, let's see, if you can see, I don't know if you're gonna really be able to tell that, but anyway, there's a wrench down there. I tried to put a light to see if you guys could see it down there. But anyway, there's you can see the top of the exhaust right there. Anyway, it's going to be easier to come through the top to get that one bolt out than trying to grab it from the bottom. Other than that, both on the once you get that one bolt out on this side, the bottom bolt easy, and then on the driver's side there seems to be enough clearance on both sides of that, so that won't be a problem. So we'll move on and get that done. So hopefully the things I ran into will cut down the time for everybody if they're doing theirs, especially on the brackets. Of course, I called, sent an email to Palm Beach Dyno. Per the last message I got, I haven't checked my email recently, they told me that nobody else, or at least the ones that they have done, they hadn't had to modify the bracket, which, you know, I guess I'm the super special one that the bracket had to be off. And then of course I got the email back from BMR. It just says that you know, obviously there wasn't any problems with grinding it off for clearance. I mean, obviously now that they've seen mine, they know that, you know, at least one of them has been an issue, right? So I don't know if there's been. Mine was built. It is a 2020. It was a late 2020. I want to say this thing was built in this. When was this thing built? Let's look. What's this thing? It was built 12 of 20. So December 20. Let's see. Yep, no other messages back. So yeah, there we are, guys. So that is done. I'll be honest with you, that was the most difficult part of it. That should have been an hour or two tops to pop that in and out. I mean, I could have knocked that out in no time. You know, had I knew the little trick about the bolt on the one, I wouldn't have got hung up there. And on the driver's side, obviously, you know, had I known there was going to be a clearance issue, then that wouldn't have been a problem. So yeah, the exhaust should go fairly quickly. And then we'll probably jump on doing the fuel system after that. So, all right, man, stay tuned. Moving forward, it'll be exhaust, and then we'll jump on fuel, and then before you know it, the Whipple will be on there. All right, guys, till next time.